So a while back, I realized I had a big bottleneck in my business. I didn't have time to get done everything that I needed to get done to continue to grow. And as a result, my business stopped growing. And I started looking at all the stuff that I was doing. And I was like, what's the problem here? What I realized was I was spending way too much time on Zoom calls. Now, if you have an online business, maybe you sell courses or coaching or consulting or services or e-commerce or whatever. If you have an online business, if you work on the internet, you've probably experienced this before. Zoom fatigue or just being overloaded with Zoom calls. You know, you'll look at your calendar for the coming week and you'll have 14, 16, 18, 20 calls, maybe more. And the thing is, what you don't realize is that when you are on Zoom calls, you are not making any money, right? You are making money in your business when you are doing things that make money, like writing emails, writing ads, launching new funnels, developing new products. That is the stuff that actually makes your cash register ring. When you are on Zoom, you are not able to do any of those things. The more that you are on Zoom, I think the less money that you will ultimately make. I know this is kind of like a bit contrarian because everyone's like, oh, well, if you're remote or if you have team or if you have clients, you need to be on Zoom. You need to have standing calls. I got rid of all that stuff. I have very few, if any, Zoom calls on my calendar in a given week. You know, there's certain things like if I need to meet with my accountant a few times a year to discuss tax strategy, random things like that. Every now and again, if I need to pop on real quick for 5 minutes to connect with someone. But I've eliminated just about every single Zoom call off my calendar. And once I did that, my business started growing very, very fast because I had time to write more emails, to launch more products, to develop new products, to build more funnels, things that actually grow the business. It's weird because when did everyone decide that we have to live our life in 30 or 60-minute Zoom blocks, right? Like, when did this become the standard? You look at people's calendars and it's an absolute mess. There's no white space on it at all. And I don't think you get anything done when that happens. Because if you're a very creative person like me, it's kind of like weird to say, but like, oh, I'm a creative. But, you know, I spend my time writing. And I know when I'm writing, creating ads and funnels and products and things that I could sell, that's when I make money. If I have one or two Zoom calls, that's my whole day, right? It's very hard to task switch between being like in the brain space to be on a Zoom call where you're either delegating or answering questions or whatever it is, and then switching into creative mode. If you want to be really good at creating content, writing really good ads, designing really good products, I think you need a lot of white space. I think you need days that are completely open where you know you're not going to be pulled onto a meeting, talking to someone or listening to someone blabber on about stuff. I'm telling you, once you do this, it's so freeing. Everything in your business is going to change because you're actually going to have time to do the stuff that you need to do. You don't need Zoom. You do not need it. I'm telling you, you don't need it. You're going to watch this video and you're going to say, no, but I do because I have these clients or I have this team member, whatever it is. I have team, I have clients, and we don't use Zoom, right? Here's what we do instead. First, because you kind of have to wean yourself off of this. Like, I've been, full-time in my business since 2017, so it's been 7 or 8 years since I made that jump. And it was hard because I overloaded my schedule just like you probably are now. And what I started doing was I started compressing meetings. That's the first step. So you might have a Calendly link or a calendar link where people can schedule on for 30 or 60 minutes depending on how much time they need. Why do you need that much time on Zoom? Like, what do you need an hour for? What do you need a half an hour for? What I started doing was compressing everything down into 15-minute blocks. So if I really, really needed to connect with a client, I'd say, hey, here's a link to my calendar. We have 15 minutes to discuss what you need. Tell me what you need and I'll help you out. The amazing thing that happened was that we were able to fit everything we needed into 15 minutes. And if for some reason we didn't cover what we needed to cover, what I would do is I would say, hey, we're brushing up on time. I got another call I got to jump to. What I'm going to do is send me your other questions we didn't cover via email. I'm going to shoot you a Loom video back. And just doing that little thing, that allowed me to claw back so much of my time. What's funny is that, like, what happens on a call? Like, people ask you questions. Well, can people ask you questions via email? Can people ask you questions via a Loom video? Of course they can. And guess what? Nothing broke. Everything was fine because what are you doing on a call? You're asking questions or you're answering questions. Like, why can't that happen via text? Why can't that happen via a Loom video? People think that they can't do this, so they stay stuck and they never even try, but you'd be amazed. Some of my best clients, actually the clients who make the most money, the biggest businesses that I work with, they actually don't want Zoom calls. I remember about a year and a half ago, I started working with a client. I was kind of still in this mode of transitioning out of the Zoom stuff, and I was like, do you want to do like a standing monthly call? And they said, ideally, no, if we don't have to. I said, cool. I am very happy to hear that because I actually don't want to do one either. And we've been working together ever since, and it's great. And I do what I got to do to get them the result, and they pay their invoice. And why do we need to be on Zoom? Why do we need a bi-weekly meeting? What's going to happen on the bi-weekly meeting? We send them an update. They're happy. We communicate, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're seeing. Here's what we're going to do. And then we go. And then we work. And it's completely asynchronous. And I've been trying to design this asynchronous business for myself, because I've realized if I have more time to do things that make money, I will make more money. And if I don't have time to do things that make me money, I will make less money. And it's like funny to even have to say this, but people never audit their time. You have to understand, everyone else will take as much time as you allow them to. We didn't always live like this. Zoom wasn't always around. Video calls weren't always a thing. How did people work in the 80s or the 70s? You know what they did? They picked up the phone and they called you, and then if they didn't reach you, they'd leave a message, and then you'd call them back. Why do we allow ourselves to live like this today? It's absolutely crazy. This is why you don't have time to do things to grow your business. Everyone says, I don't have time. I don't have time to write an email. I don't have time to post a video. I don't have time to do YouTube. I don't have time to do that new funnel. I don't have time to make this new product. Well, this is why you do not have time. This is exactly why, because you are living your life. You are dying half an hour at a time on Zoom. It's like Clockwork Orange. You have to put the machine to keep your eyes open, to keep staring at the Zoom call. You don't need to do this. People will tell me, they'll say, well, I can't do it because I have a lot of clients. All of my clients are asynchronous. When I do consulting, most of my consulting is via voice memo. So we have an app, we use Signal usually, and I tell my clients to say, hey, we're not going to have any standing calls. If we really need to book in a call, we'll do one a quarter, right? You just tell me when you need it. If there's an emergency or something, we can get it on the schedule. But most of my clients don't even use the calls that I give them, because what I do is I say, you're going to hit me up, send me a voice memo when you have a question. So they send me a voice memo, I listen to it, and then I send them a voice memo back, and they get the help that they need, and they go do what I tell them to do, and they make more money, and everything works. So that's one method that I've shifted over. Another thing that I have is this program called Hypergrowth, where it's asynchronous email coaching and mentorship and consulting. So I send them an automated email every single week with 3 questions. They answer it. They tell me what's going on and then what they need help with. And then I type them an answer back. And then they do what I say. And then their business grows and they make more money. I think that if you're selling services, because again, one of the big objections I always get is, no, you don't understand. I have an agency, or I'm a freelancer, or whatever it is, and I can't do this because I have clients. They need me on Zoom. What I do is I just tell clients, hey, I work asynchronously. And that's it. And that's what I do. I say, I work asynchronously. And that's it. And they say, oh, okay. And then a big part of this is just setting expectations, right? They're going to default to their default, right? They're going to say, well, all the other agencies I work with do this, so I'd assume you do too. No, I work differently, and this is how I work, and this is how I work best, because if I'm on time with you on a Zoom call, I'm not able to work on your account. I'm not able to work on the stuff that's actually going to make you more money, right? Part of this is positioning, Sometimes people, even for sales, it's like, well, I have to hop on Zoom calls, all these meetings with potential clients, I have to hop on calls to close them. And I would argue and say, actually, no, you don't. I have counters for everything. So you can give me any objection, I will counter, because I've actually countered all of these things. When my second son was born, I was super busy, and he was the kind of baby where I had to, if I put him down, he'd start crying. So I'd have to hold him for sometimes 3 hours, right? And I'd be in the room rocking him, for 3 hours while he takes his nap. So I was so busy, so pressed for time, I barely had time to do anything. And I had potential clients reaching out. I had my agency and my whole team. And I said to clients, I said, hey, listen, I have a newborn. I don't have time to hop on a call. I'd love to take your business and help you out. Here's the price. Here's what we're going to do for you. Here's some case studies, some examples. If you'd like to move forward, I can block off some time for a kickoff call to get us all situated. But this is what it looks like to work with me. And then I sent them that email. And guess what? I close clients that way without ever getting on the phone. And it's well, why was I able to do that? Am I anyone special? Not really. I mean, there's a couple things. Number one, my positioning was good because I have built up positioning in the marketplace over time. How did I do that? Publishing content, videos, case studies, email lists, books, all of these things. Again, you can do this stuff too. There's no one stopping you from doing these things, right? People, you get what you accept. That's what I found. I always thought that it was impossible to do that until I actually just started doing it and said, hey, I literally do not have time to hop on the phone, but I'd like to help you, and here's how that's going to look. And then there we go. Deal closed. Cool. 5-figure deal. Like that. Awesome. People say, well, I sell a coaching program. I've sold coaching programs before. I have a $5,500 coaching program, one-person agency that I used to sell. And the first 2 cohorts that I did it, I was doing sales calls, and I remember I had 50 sales calls the first month that I ever launched it. And it was really good to go through that first round of sales calls to get, the market's objections and develop counters and see what people were concerned about and what they were, their motivation, their desires, all the typical sales call stuff. So then I did it the second time, and I was like, man, I'm really exhausted. And if I do 50 sales calls in a month with everything else going on in my business, I don't have time to do anything. I don't have time to launch anything new or do anything for acquisition. So the third time I launched it, I said, I'm not going to do any sales calls. And what I did was I just crafted a, I don't know, 4 or 5 page Google document with the pitch and answers to the common questions and how the program works and why it's good and why you want it and what the cost is, what the deadline is. So people would reply back to my emails if they were interested, or they would reply, and I would send them that document, say, here's information about the program. Let me know if you'd like to join. And people said, yes, I'd like to join. And then I sent them a payment link and they paid and then they were in. And there we go. Like, do you need a sales team? I mean, I don't know. I'm sure some people might have specific funnels where they're pulling super cold traffic and maybe they need that and whatever. I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule. But I think that for most people, you don't need to be on Zoom, or at least you don't need to be on as much as you are. And like, what if you can claw back 10 or 20 hours a week? Not only just time, but also just mental bandwidth and focus and creativity. And you didn't have to task switch as much. What would that do for your life? What would that do for your business? Everything would change. A lot of stuff can happen asynchronously. And if it's not happening asynchronously, it's because your pitch is not as refined as it needs to be, your positioning is not built up as much as it should be, or you have not developed a system that is good enough for delivery of results. I think if you're selling stuff online, you can have a really lean, really low tech, really low stress business where you have a lot of white space on your calendar. Again, if you are focused on growing your list and you're sending emails and you're developing products to sell and services to sell, those things don't usually require Zoom, okay? So I want to urge you, just try it. Just try to claw back some of that time. Everything's going to change in your business. You are going to be able to think again. You're going to be able to breathe again. You are going to feel like you're 100 pounds lighter because you have so much less pressure, and you're going to not get the Sunday scaries when you look at your calendar and see, a wall of Zoom calls. The last thing I'll say too is, as you're making this transition, one of the things that I started doing was I started compressing the amount of days, because there were weeks I remember in years past when I'd have 1 call on Monday, I'd have 3 on Tuesday, I'd have 4 on Wednesday, I'd have 1 on Thursday, and then I'd have 2 on Friday. And it's like, you're going to get nothing done that entire week. So there's a couple things you could do. One thing, as I call it, the magic box, where you literally imagine you draw a box on your calendar. So what I started doing was I said, okay, I'll do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. That's the box, right? So from noon to 3 p.m., those 3 days, that is where we fit all of the Zoom calls in. And I think that was 12 hours worth of Zoom, right? And what I did was I just scheduled all the calls back to back. They were shorter windows. So I said, that time, I will dedicate the mental energy for that box. It's going to fit in this container. And that is the time where I'll be present for Zoom. And when I'm not inside the magic box, the 9 to 12 every single morning, and then a full open day on Thursday and a full open day on Friday, that is my creative time, and no one's going to bother me, and I'm not talking to anyone. And that was huge. I kind of switched up the magic box and I said, let's just do 2 call days, Wednesday and Thursday. And I've started gradually clawing back the Wednesday calls. So now it's just like Thursday's the call day. If I need to have any calls at all, they will be on Thursday, preferably after, from 11 to 3, I think is the window. So now what I've done is I've compressed all the Zoom calls into 4 hours, 1 day a week. And, because there's still, like I said, there's still random things like, okay, I need to meet with my accounting team, or I need to hop on with my traffic guy real quick, or I have an emergency that happened with a client and we need to just hash something out really fast. So actually, usually I'll call them on the phone, old school 1980 style. Pick up the phone, hang up when you're done. But yeah, between that, texting, voice memos, Loom, you have so many methods. I'll film a Loom video if I need to delegate something to someone else, but I'm not spending all of my time. Hey, let's take 45 minutes out of your day and out of my day to talk about this thing. Let's just go do the thing. Shopify, the major e-commerce platform, they created this really cool widget. And this probably isn't something you would do for yourself, but the idea is really powerful. What they started doing was they started looking at everyone's calendar. I guess they coded this app that what it did was, if there were meetings on the calendar, and this was all done anonymously, of course, they would take everyone's salary and divide it by the time of the meeting. And they would say, okay, this meeting is worth $320,000 based on all the people who are here for the amount of time that they're going to be on. Is the outcome of this meeting going to produce more than $320,000? And if the answer is no, then don't have the meeting. And they just start deleting meetings. And Shopify's doing great. And they continue to build an awesome product and grow and grow and grow. And their stock's doing amazing at the time of this publishing. So that's a big company, way bigger than your company, most likely. So I think you can do it. I think you just got to have some guts and test it. It's good to stress test things in your business. It's good to try things, to pull things out, to say, what happens if we unplug this? What happens if we unplug that? What happens if we delete this meeting? What happens? Do the walls fall down? Does the business come crashing down if we delete this meeting? Or can we find a way to survive without it? And if you start doing that, amazing things are going to happen.